Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honorable ministers, dignitaries. My speech today, I'm a German, my speech today is short, 15 minutes, not longer, and it is related to a topic which had been a topic for quite a couple of months. The topic is the relationship between Sri Lanka and China, and it was sometimes reported in tabloids in a little bit spicy way. Now, I being a German, not a Sri Lankan and not a Chinese, probably I can give a little neutral view of analyzing a little further the relationship and the way how things are reported here. So I would like to ask you, like in the past, when I give a sign, kindly come to the next. Now to the first introduction to my first slide, please. You can put it now. So I'm happy also to see that Honorable Minister of National Security is here with us, a member of the Parliament. I know that Honorable Chamal Rajapaksa was also the Speaker of the Parliament in the previous time. Mr. Tonamam. And here, can we put the first one, the slide? So, coming to the topic between related to relationship, business, economic relationship between Sri Lanka and China. We have approximately 22 million people living in Sri Lanka. Compared to China, China is a huge country, a very big country. Has about 1.4 billion people living in. Oh, now we are there, that's fine. Very good. So we come to the second slide, please, to the next one. Yeah, now this picture shows a little bit, and it might be interesting for all of you to see the dimension of the two countries. Now you see the size and the population. Small, tiny Sri Lanka with 21 million something inhabitants, and China with a huge number of population, about 1.4 billion people living in this huge country. Both countries have close relationships, and I would say good relationships, mutual good relationships, not only on economic basis. I'll come to the next. When it comes to another comparison between China and Sri Lanka, you just see there's a town in, maybe an unknown town for most of you, with the name Chongqing. Chongqing, a town in China which has 21 million people living in that town. That is nearly the same amount of inhabitants like living in whole Sri Lanka. So that gives you a little impression. There's a giant in Far East and a small, tiny country with 20 million people. So what does the two countries connect to each other? And it can invite, of course, sensational press, tabloid. It can invite an idea which had been publicized that the big China is swallowing Sri Lanka. These type of topics I have seen in the news here in multiple times, in the English news mainly. But is it like that? Do we really say, can we say that China is swallowing Sri Lanka? We'll see. We'll come to the next. To the projects. Now, Sri Lanka has beautiful development of infrastructure over the last 10, 15 years. And here you can see an overview. The port city, Colombo, will be a jewel. It is something equal in a smaller dimension than what you see in Dubai. So when port city one day is done and built, it is done with the support of China, a support from China to Sri Lanka. And the total volume of the investment is $1.4 billion. It's a huge amount of money. And we go further. You have the Hambantota port, which is doing very well. And Sri Lanka has become a landmark on the international shipping trading map. China has supported Sri Lanka with an investment of 1.3 million US dollars, completed in 2010. It goes further and further. You see the Matala International Airport with a loan from the Export-Import Bank of China of 100 million, and so on and so on and so on, you see. Now, when you as a normal company, now we have smart people here, when you go and you want to start a business, in many occasions, you need the support of a bank. How do you see this bank who is supporting you to build up your business? Somehow, it is your partner. So the bank gives you money, you pay for the loan interest, of course, but it's a mutual understanding. No one will say that the bank is swallowing you. So why all that tenor comes in the news all the time that China is swallowing Sri Lanka? Just think. We'll come to the next. So this picture is also appearing in Europe. Now, I'm a German. Of course, I'm a German who is living in Sri Lanka 37 years. And what makes me confident to say that Sri Lanka will never be swallowed by China, that is the smartness of the people. How many smart people we have here? You are smart. In my 37 years, I have met a lot of very smart people. Business people, sports people. Now even we had a former minister here who was a world champion in cricket. You have to be smart as a member and as a team to become a world champion. We have a world champion in bodybuilding here. So that is from the sports side. But we have a lot of entrepreneurs also in Sri Lanka, and you will wonder, among them, there are also multi-billionaires. So this is Port City, Lotus Tower, and the harbor. And these projects had been erected with the help and with the support of a friendly nation to Sri Lanka, and that is China. We'll come to the next. Now, and what all these projects have in common, they all are in Sri Lanka, and they will remain to be in Sri Lanka. There is no way of taking Port City into containers and ship it back to China. That will never happen. So it has been funded by China, but these projects belong to Sri Lanka, the harbor, the airports, and whatever. So Sri Lankan people are smart. And China does it not only for making an additional interest income. China is huge. China is a country also which has not been born the last 250 years before, like the biggest, most powerful country in the world, with the USA. China has a long history. China has a deep-rooted culture, same like Sri Lanka. So we'll come to the next. Looking to the smartness of people. You had very smart forefathers who have laid the foundation to a Sri Lanka which is consolidated. Consolidated means you have passed laws. I would be happy for my country if my country in Germany would have had these laws, the immigration laws. No foreigner can become a Sri Lankan citizen. So if anyone says one day China will flood Sri Lanka, it will not happen. You have a perfect Citizenship Act, you have an immigration law. Sri Lanka belongs to Sri Lankans, and you are 23 million people. No one can overrun you. Smart forefathers have created that, and smart, recent government, ministers and presidents have not abolished this law, which is good. And the next. Now you see a few photos here. I would have put some more, but these are smart Sri Lankans who have become multi-billionaires. And I especially like that person on the right side here. That is Mr. Rajaratnam. He had outsmarted the New York Stock Exchange by being a hedge fund manager. This is a Sri Lankan. You have a Sri Lankan who had been in the driving seat of developing Facebook. He was a vice president of Facebook. You have Sri Lankan scholars who are in top-class American universities. So it's a small country here with 22 million people. And you can be confident the smartness of the people will remain. I say that as a German, and I say that with a background of 37 years experience working together with you. And I had a fun to work with you, and I learned a lot. And we come to the next. But there's one thing where Sri Lanka is equal to China. And that is when it comes to the international agenda of United Nations, for example. The vote of Sri Lanka has equal power like the vote of China when it comes to giving a vote. Sri Lanka's vote is equally strong like China's vote. And you, Sri Lanka, you maintained over decades a very good contact to Japan. For example, Japan after the Second World War was isolated. And I remember that your former president, Jayawardena, he had opened the path to Japan. And Japan has awarded Sri Lanka over the decades after that, with helping Sri Lanka, funding projects, and giving loans. And up to date, the relationship between Sri Lanka and Japan is good. So it will be the same with China. You maintain good contacts to India. And I always think a small island like this is doing very well. When it comes to the global economic situation, don't be frustrated. We in Europe are facing much more difficulties. I have seen how the Sri Lankan people managing the pandemic, how smart the street business is going on. When the supermarkets are closed, you find all over the small shops by the side of the road. I'm running a hotel, I know how difficult it is to get stocks. So we bought it from the road, small businesses right and left from the road. In my country, that is not possible. There will be people coming and restricting that. Here I saw police people walking from one stall to the other stall and looking that the traders are not increasing the prices. Very smart. So in the United Nations level, and the Honorable Chamal Rajapaksa knows that very well, Sri Lanka has always been a friend of China when it comes to human rights issues. Nowadays, the human rights issues are defined by the Western world. This is not right. They put sanctions and all sort of other stuff. But human rights are globally, and human rights cannot be determined by Western nations, led by the Americans, for example. Human rights violations, if so, they don't happen, or if so, they happen in each and every country more or less. Sri Lanka was always a friend when it came to giving votes. And come on to the next. So now something for you, a matter of interest. Now I think smart people here, you are driving smart cars, no? So then you can see this is a Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Volkswagen, and there are a few other companies. What are these automobile producers have in common? They are all going to produce cars in China. Now imagine that. Mercedes-Benz is the top brand of the German car industry. They have announced they are going to China setting up factories and building the cars in China. And why is that? Because the environment, the economical environment in China is in the meantime better than in my own country in Germany. So, me being a German, I'm a foreigner, but not really actually, I'm a hybrid also, because I'm half German, I'm half Sri Lankan, my blood is Sri Lankan, my passport is German. So I enjoyed that. And I wanted to say this today: do not fear China, China is your friend. Enjoy all the projects, what they have funded, and I'm sure the business what is generated out of these fantastic projects coming up with Port City, Sri Lanka will benefit out of that. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.